Number 2, the lack of professional and personal plans, goals that lead to great losses because of the lack of efficiency, control, and safety. Doctors don't have enough efficiency, control, and safety. Efficiencies on not paying unnecessary taxes, insurances, expenses, letting your business drive your overhead, letting your overhead drive your business, not your business drive your overhead. In other words, you build it, let's say you go and practice for yourself. Why are you going to build 5 operatories? Why don't you rent the building and not buy it? Why don't you open 2 operatories instead of 5? You can plumb it as it goes along. Why not 6 months from now open another one, or 1 year? Let the business volume drive the overhead. Don't let the overhead drive the business. So we create all kinds of inefficiencies, and we can go on and on. You pay for insurances that can return to you. There's something called premium refund. There's something called captive insurances, where you can be in your group and you can have captive insurance where you pay your premiums to your own insurance company. You reinsure it, and the back end goes into the company 30 years from now based on the claims experience. If you have good claims experience, you liquidate, you own the insurance company, and you get the net proceeds that the insurance company would have said thank you very much and paid the CEO for his plane trip. You get $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. It comes $500,000. It comes back to you. And those lists go on and on. We can't get into the details, but what I'm telling you, that's efficiency. Control. Don't put your money in somebody else's control. Make sure that, I'm not saying don't have institutional managers. Have experts manage your money. Don't you manage it. I cannot tell you how many times I go into the ER, flip the switch to put the computer on. It's already on, and the guy didn't close down his trading. See a patient, trade a stock. See a patient, trade a stock. Less than 5% of money managers, guys that have MBAs from Wharton, Harvard, everywhere, can beat the S&P 500 just buying the market and holding it. So you think because you're a doctor, because that's the problem. We think because we're smart at medicine, we're smart at everything. We're not. And so, and on top of that, even if we were in between patients, pump the chest, trade the stock. Intubate, you know, make the margin call. And safety, listen, don't take any more risk than you need to. What happens is we don't save, we're inefficient, we get halfway through our life, we say, oh my gosh, I've got this much to save. Somebody says, well, to save that little bit, and to get there at that time, you have to get a 20% return. Well, what happens if I keep twice as much money and get half that return and be safe? Be safe. Don't take any risk. Don't take any more risk than necessary to get to where you need to be. How do you know where you need to be? You need to have a plan that says, this is how much I need. This is when I'm going to get there. This is how much risk I have to get. Don't take any more risk, because you say, well, I might have twice as much money if I was in the stock market. Yeah. Guess what? Critical capital mass, that amount of money that you need to save to carry your lifestyle for the rest of your life without going out in the door and working. Well, if you have twice as much as that, it's money that you will never spend. Statistically, we know that, and you're trading life that you may never get back. Because if the market falls 1 year before you hit critical capital mass and you have to wait 7 years to recoup it, you lost 7 years of life that you cannot get back. 7 years of ministry, time with your child, time with your husband, time with your wife. Don't do it. Okay. Number 3, not enough balance between the important things in their lives: physical, intellectual, spiritual, emotional, financial, social, and occupational. Listen, if you're not balanced and you're overstrained on your resources, it's not just your financial resources that you're going to be overstrained on. It's going to be on your physical resources, your emotional resources, and it affects your family. You mess up your finances, you mess up your marriage, you mess up your children, you mess up your lives, and you mess up your ability to minister for the Lord. How many times have doctors wanted to do mission work, but they couldn't because they were trapped by their circumstances? Very common. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be a missionary. To the contrary, you're a missionary wherever you are. But you need to have the capacity to do it. Number 4, trading the important for the urgent. Okay? You know, I really do need to get disability. I really do need to start my pension plan. I really do need to have 6 months savings. But, you know, I really do need 6 months in the bank. I really do need to get down my debt. But my wife just dying to get that car. Or I don't have the time because I got to hurry up and get those patients done. I got to make more money. And so we end up, we're driven. We know things are important. But it is our nature to take care of that's urgent. That's why people don't stop smoking or eating fat food or whatever, because people are in a hurry. McDonald's is right there. The important is to be healthy and not have a heart attack. The urgent is, I'm hungry, I don't have time, they'll give me 5 minutes, there I go. It becomes transactional. Don't trade the important for the urgent. Not enough accountability, coaching, and effective communication in personal and professional life. My goodness, do you know how many people never stay in CMDA? Do you know the statistics of people that drop out of CMDA once they get out of residency and go into practice? It's staggeringly bad. They don't have the time. It just slips their mind. If you're not connected with organizations and with people and fellowship with believers that are of like mind and can create resources and mentoring for you that continues, mentoring is as important as it is in your training. When you get out, it's twice as important because you're on your own. You better not stay on your own. You better stay connected. Number 6, taking on too much debt for lifestyle. What's my time? 10 minutes. I'm going to make it. Taking on too much debt for lifestyle. Oh my goodness. If you don't walk away with anything else, listen, don't get into debt. That you can pay for and that you can afford are two entirely different things. My father was a 5'6" of them, grew up on a farm, 11 kids, dirt farmer, 40 acres, very poor, very smart guy. My dad, brilliant guy, never went to college. He built a firm, five different types of businesses, spas and Arthur Murray's and weight loss clinics and farm, and he was bigger than life. He had 250 employees. He pulls up to his corporate center, pulls in with his 10-year-old Bonneville. Pulls up. All of a sudden, one of his managers pulls in a brand new Cadillac, jumps out of the car and looks at my dad and says, "Mr. Davenport," he says, "you should have one of these." My dad said, "Funny, I can't afford it." My dad could have paid for it, but he couldn't afford it, at least in his mind. And that's the problem. Just because you can pay for something doesn't mean you can afford it. You know, you've heard that you should save 10% of your money. Forget that. You need to be saving at least 30% of your money in today's environment to get where you need to be. So you take 30% off and then you take your tithe, and where are you at? You better adjust your lifestyle. Debt is the biggest thing that will kill you. If you walk out and remember nothing else about this lecture, don't get into debt. And the conversation that you have to have is a family conversation, because it is the family that's going to kill you if you're married. It is because they are going to have demands. They are out in the community. The community's putting pressures on what kind of car they should be driving, what school the kids should go to, what community you should live in, what country club you should be a member of. You're working. You feel guilty. You pay for it for them because they made the sacrifice, and they have. What do you do when you pay for it? You have to work more because you don't know how to work smarter or more efficiently. You work more. You're isolated. You feel more guilty. They ask for more stuff to fill their lives. You give it to them, and it creates a vicious cycle. Don't get into debt. Last statement on debt. College debt. Everybody asks me about school debt. You know, what do I do about school debt? Well, one of the biggest things I tell you is live the first 2 years out of residency, live the first 2 or 3 years even out of residency like you're a resident, and pay the debt off. And this, again, has to be a family discussion, because if it is not a family discussion, it's just like, you know, me going, if my wife didn't like it, it's not going to happen. Trust me, if your husband or wife is not together with you, you will crash. And it has to be, you have to understand what you're aiming for, and everybody's knows what your value systems are, what your goals are, and why you're doing it, and why you're making the sacrifices, and everybody has to be on the same page. Number 7, imposter syndrome, perpetuating the lie of perfection. You go to work, doctor, doctor, doctor. You go home, you idiot, you forgot to take out the garbage again. It's a big dichotomy. You start separating yourself. You go to work sometimes to gain because there's a difference in the esteem issues. Or you start thinking that, you know, at work I feel better, but also you perpetuate this idea of what's called imposter syndrome, that you cannot let people know you're weak. You cannot let people know that you need help. You have to be the perfect father, the perfect wife, the perfect husband, the perfect church member, the perfect doctor, the perfect businessman. If you go to a colleague, it might get out in the community. If you go to your church, it might get out in the community. If you go to something formally, it might get on your credentialing. And so you keep it all in, and you're going to blow up. Go to resources that are safe, but go to resources. You don't know everything. Number 8, defining medicine is who you are, not what you do. And that attends to the balance issues. Lack of downside planning and upside planning. Real quick, I probably got up, it's 5 to 7 minutes left. Downside planning. When you first get out, take care of these things. Build a minimum of 3 to 6 months of ready cash. 5-minute money, I call it. Put it in something that's safe, guaranteed, short-term, or CDs or whatever. I'm not worried about the return on the money. I'm worried about its accessibility. Okay? Pay off your debt. Buy as much life insurance for as little premium. Get as much as you can. Go to your associations. Go to any kind of group stuff. Get a pile of life insurance to replace critical capital mass. So if critical capital mass, for example, is 2.5 million and you're going to be an orthopedist, so, yours might be like 20 million. No, I'm kidding. But, you need 2.5 million. You don't have a lot of money necessarily right now. Buy the least for the most. Now, within 5 years or so, depending on personal values, you might buy permanent insurance. And I'm not saying permanent insurance is bad. In fact, it can be good depending on the planning issues. But in the beginning, it's protecting the family. Make sure you get disability. Make sure you have health insurance. If you're an independent contractor, make sure you have health insurance. Make sure you have health insurance. Did I say make sure you have health insurance? Okay, so, and make sure that you don't necessarily buy a home immediately when you get into practice, because at least rent for a year, because you don't know that you'll be there, honestly. Upside planning. Buy a nice home before you start saving for the future, for retirement. You say, what in the world are you? Are you really a financial planner? Yes. Get a decent home. Don't get too big. Obvious. We've talked about it. But don't get too small, because you're going to blow out. Your wife is going to say, I can't stand it, and you're going to go off. You're going to go to Crazy Farm, and you're going to buy the mansion. Get the home you can stay in. Get a nice home that you're proud of. But don't go crazy, and don't buy too little. Okay. Upside planning, then start doing your pension plans. If you're a lot of us are employed, put everything you possibly can put in your pension plan, because it's pre-tax savings. And then you can start, if you have your own practice or in group practice, there's sophisticated planning. There's all kinds of things, 419s, welfare benefit, captive insurance companies, where you're converting spent assets to retainable assets. We don't have the time for that, but basically, downside planning is covering what happens if something goes wrong. Upside planning, covering to make sure that everything's right. Okay? The last one, number 10, is wasting life capital by living for success instead of significance. There's 2 phases in life that traditionally we, in my generation, have gone through. We live half our life searching for success, and the second half of our life living for significance. Success is what's, building is about me, and significance is about others. If you listen to what I say and you do this right, you can live a life of significance, which is ultimately what you want, is that you want your whole life to serve God. And through that process, if you're diligent and disciplined with your assets, you can build up your success. And there's nothing wrong with that, in the sense that I'm defining the success as being able to take care of yourself, your spouse, your children, and ultimately your value systems.